Access event. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. I'm a white woman in my mid-30s. I have chin length brown hair and bangs. I'm wearing a shirt that says "Access is Love," and I'm sitting in my home office today. Arts Access works to make the arts accessible to kids and adults with disabilities. We've been in Raleigh, North Carolina since 1984, but we try to serve the whole state. And again, if you're new, we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. Max will put that link in the chat. We have Byte-Size Learning events a few times per year, and it's just where we try to take a bite out of a really big topic to get people excited and interested to learn more. Another thing I wanted to mention that we have coming up is our series of Fortunate events, which highlights the creativity and the artistry of disabled artists and artists with disabilities. In 2 weeks on May 14th, we'll have a screening of Crip Camp at the North Carolina Museum of Art. We'll have that in their indoor facility. We'll have it at the outdoor amphitheater, and we'll have it, you can join virtually as well during the day. And then in early June, we'll have an accessible art making event and book giveaway at the Durham County Main Library. And later on in July, we'll have a visual art exhibition. And just a few housekeeping notes before we get going. This session will be recorded, as you saw the pop-up come on and let you know. The recording will be sent out in a follow-up email. And please feel free to stay in this space as you feel most comfortable, video on, video off. We just ask that your microphone is muted during Courtney's presentation. Captions are available if you click on the live transcript button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You should be able to show subtitle there to get those captions to show up for you. Please just interrupt us or type in the chat if that's not working for you. If you do have a question or a need, again, please feel free to use that chat function, the raise hand button, or just simply raise your hand if you're on video. Max, who is our Arts Access Program Coordinator, and I will both be monitoring. And we're going to hear from Courtney for about 15 minutes, and then we'll open things up to have more of a Q&A and informal conversation today. And so I'm going to let Max take it away and introduce Courtney.
Okay. Hello, my name is Max. I'm a white person. I currently have pink hair, and I'm wearing a little cardigan and a purple striped shirt. I am sitting in my living room that has red walls. Today, we will have my friend Courtney Johnson with us to lead our conversation on augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC. Courtney is a disability rights advocate, speaker, and writer who you can find online at justkeepstimming.com. and on Instagram. And then Courtney, I will hand it over to you.
Hey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Johnson, and welcome to this Byte-Size Learning presentation on AAC. I'm excited to share all about augmentative and alternative communication. For visual descriptions, I am a white individual with blonde hair and glasses and wearing a purple shirt. If my cat decides to interrupt, she's a slightly chunky cat with green eyes. All slides in this presentation have a color scheme of light blues and white, and their content will be read aloud in some variation. Please note that while a large portion of this presentation is pre-written, some of it is not. If there are any quiet pauses while I compose messages, consider these as part of the presentation itself, as communicating with AAC users will often have pauses. It's simply a communication style.
Cool.
Sorry about that. On this slide for accessibility, there is also a photo of me. I am wearing a yellow dress and sitting in a wheelchair in front of a fountain. To give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm a 25-year-old autistic adult with multiple disabilities, including dysautonomia, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and traumatic brain injury. I am primarily non-speaking due to aphasia, and use an AAC device to communicate. I graduated from Tennessee's Partners in Policymaking program, and am hopefully graduating this December at East Tennessee State University with my Bachelor's of Science in Sociology. I've presented at several conferences, workshops, and panels on a variety of topics, including executive functioning, management of meltdowns, the IEP process, and more. I also run a website where I try to compile resources for other autistic people and their families. I do want to add the disclaimer that I am not a speech-language pathologist or assistive tech professional. I'm just an AAC user trying to be as helpful as possible. Okay, now that's out of the way, we can focus on the fun stuff. When I talk about AAC, people often ask what exactly it is. And the simple answer is that it's essentially any communication that doesn't involve speech. Augmentative and alternative communication is comprised of two parts. The first is augmentative, which is additional to speech, or supplemental. The other is alternative, which means instead of speech, using it as a substitution. A lot of people think of only high-tech options when it comes to AAC, but there is a lot more than just that. There are many reasons for someone to use AAC. Some examples of conditions are apraxia, aphasia, autism, cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury, ALS, and a lot more. Some people use it part-time as a supplement to speech, while others use it full-time to communicate. AAC will not stop someone from developing speech. Sometimes it can help someone develop speech.
Aha.
There are different types of AAC. Some are no tech or light tech. This can be aided with tools or unaided. High tech includes speech generating devices, tablets, smartphones, etc. Either of these can be symbol-based or text-based, and individuals often use a variety of different methods. I'll briefly go over examples of all of these. For unaided none and light tech AAC, there are many options available. Some of those include body language, such as movement, arms folded, falling asleep. Facial expressions are another example: smiling, frowning, surprise, shock, Gestures are also an example: pointing, shrugging, waving. Sign languages can also be a form of AAC. American Sign Language is only one kind. It's very important to know that this is not universally seen as a form of AAC, as many deaf, hard of hearing individuals consider it its own language with cultural significance. As you can see, Aided Light Tech has a lot more options here. Dry erase boards, paper and pen or pencil. Magna doodles and boogie boards. Letter boards, communication boards, books, pod books, Pixie Pal. Letterboards are boards, sometimes laminated with letters, words, and pictures that an individual can point to or use other methods of indicating their choices. Communication and pod books are systems bound together in books. Pixibles are essentially waterproof communication books. Picture communication symbols are an option as well, as they are images used in visual schedules to convey emotions, wants, and needs. Do not confuse this with text, which is not a robust form of communication and is requests exchange based. Color communication cards use a traffic light color system. Color communication cards use a traffic light color system. Green, actively seeking communication. Yellow, only interact with known individuals. And red, doesn't want to interact, only if the individual initiates it themselves. Clothing, objects, accessories are also possibilities. This is an example of some of the previously mentioned options. A group of color-coded cards with green, yellow, and red. A blackboard with hello written on it. A communication letterboard with the alphabet. And a Pixie Pal book with a blue rim. There are a lot of high-tech options. Speech generating devices, SGD, or voice output communication aids, VOCA, are both descriptions of high-tech AAC, usually referring to dedicated devices. This device I'm using is an example of those. There's also AAC apps on tablets or smartphones. Even texting or using social media to communicate can technically be a form of AAC. Adaptive options. Eye gaze devices, controlling a device via eye movement. Switches, typically buttons used to select an option or interact with something. Scanning, method of accessing AAC by going through options, visual or auditory. K-guards, help with fine motor control and selecting options. And more. Switches and scanning are often used for people who have difficulty with motor control or vision. Here are a few examples of different AAC apps. Here is Proloquo 2 Go, Speech Assistant AAC, Lab, and Tobii Dynavox Snap.
Haha.
One of the important things when interacting with any community is how words have a significant impact. While every person is an individual with their own preferences, there are things that the community often prefers as a whole. Some of these are non-speaking or semi-speaking, unreliable speech, full-time or part-time AAC user, someone who uses AAC, or multimodal communicator. Some of the terms and phrases frowned upon include nonverbal, preverbal, telling someone to use your words or mute. But again, it's best to ask people what they prefer. Here is some basics on AAC etiquette. Be patient and don't rush the person. Give us time to collect and share our thoughts. Those quiet pauses are part of our communication style. Don't read over our shoulders or touch our device without permission. Treat us age appropriately. Talking to a 25-year-old like they're 6 is very dehumanizing to us. Presume competence. Even if it looks like we don't get it or we aren't listening, we often understand more than you realize. Talk to us, not about us. Respect all forms of communication. People use all kinds of ways to communicate. Sometimes people use multiple apps, switches or eye gaze, prefer gestures, or may even only use AAC part-time, and it's okay. These are a list of resources and sources, along with recommendations in general for more information. Sorry, that went on for longer than I meant it to.